This is Beyond Category, and I'm Eric Felten. We're here at the hopping, happening U Street Corridor in Washington, D.C., home to the historic Bohemian Caverns Jazz Nightclub. Tonight, a terrific piano player, Orrin Evans, is bringing in his band to play at the Caverns, but we get to check him out right now. Orrin Evans, that was fantastic. What was that first tune?
Oh, the first tune was Mumbo Jumbo by Paul Motion.
One of the great drummers of all time.
Exactly, exactly.
Very unpredictable kind of tune. Also unpredictable is what kind of group you're going to come in and play with at any given time. People who know your music know that you play often with trio, often with quartet, quintet, or even a big band. And how do you approach what music you play with each kind of ensemble you lead?
I like to just keep it open and free. And I don't mean the music per se, but even what direction we're going to go in and feel the vibe of the moment, the room, the spirit, the energy. what the audience is giving off, what the day has been like. You know, if it's been a 3-hour drive and we're all tired, you know, if it's been a 1-hour drive and we're fresh, whatever that is, but what the energy is with the band is really important to me in how I put the sets together in any ensemble, whether it's a big band or a trio or a quartet.
Do you have a different way you approach what you do at the keyboard when you're with a trio as opposed to a big band?
I try not to. The way I like to lead my big band is a small group, many small groups in one. So even though there's 17 at the most, 17 members on the bandstand, I still want to treat it like a small group. Because sometimes when you're in a big band, you can, especially as a piano player, as a rhythm section, you may hold back because you don't want to shock everyone else, or you may be afraid that everyone else is not going to go with you. And my goal is like, let's go. We're all on this bus. We're all on this boat. We're all on this plane, whatever. Let's go together. So I try to look at everything like a small group, you know, and some of that is a personal thing too, getting to know each member of the ensemble, or at least knowing something about them that you can relate to each member of the ensemble.
And one thing you can't do with a big band as far as, you know, treating it like a small group, though, is getting all the musicians where they need to be. So you got to be really committed to do a big band to get all those guys in place.
Very committed, very committed. But after maybe 15 years of playing with the Mingus Big Band, and then watching how Sue leads that band, not musically leads it, but as you know, just the logistics and getting everyone everywhere, I learned a lot, you know. And it's not an easy task. It's not an easy task, but it's one I enjoy doing, you know.
Now, do you have a favorite context to play? I read once an interview with you where you said you hate piano trios, even though you know that's a lot of what you do. Is there something that on the flip side is what you really dig most?
When I said that quote, I honestly meant that quote, and there is a certain part of it now that I still believe. Sometimes it's intimidating, you know, just like solo piano. It's like you got to
carry all the weight.
Yeah, you know, you got to carry all the weight. But when I was doing records on another label, they basically, whether it was budget-wise or they really enjoyed trio, for the last 3, I did mostly trio records. So it got me into a better place of how I feel about them. And honestly, sometimes trios can be boring, in my opinion. So I stayed away from it. But, you know, you hope you grow and you hope you mature. And in the last few years, having to do piano trio, I've grown and figured out ways to make it exciting to me, and listening to some of the greats that I obviously hadn't checked out at the time that I made that comment. I've figured out a way to make it not so trio-ish, you know, and more 3 people on the bandstand.
Well, you've got a quartet today with the wonderful saxophonist J.D. Allen. Mm-hmm. What could you all do for us next?
Next, we're going to do a tune that I originally recorded on a Palmetto record called Meant to Shine, and the tune is entitled Meant to Shine, and we just recorded it again on Liberation Blues.
Orrin Evans. you come from Philadelphia, one of the great jazz towns in the U.S., and what did you learn? What really came into your playing out of the Philadelphia scene?
History and dedication to your craft. I mean, I grew up around a bunch of the elders like Shirley Scott and Trudy Pitts and Mickey Roker, Bobby Durham, Arthur Harper, Sam Dockery. So I was exposed to people who basically, you know, I didn't have to go to any institution to get the jazz history course. It was right there in Philly, you know. And I mean, granted, there wasn't the internet at that time, but I could go to the record store and say, wow, Shirley Scott was on this record, Trudy Pitts was on this record, Pat Martino, and I could connect all the dots. So I really had a good time just learning in Philadelphia, and they were all dedicated to their craft.
When I think of Philly, I think of like organ bands and like clubs that all had a Hammond B3 organ at the club. So, so how was it being a piano player in the land of organ players?
It wasn't just Philly. I grew up in the Church of God in Christ, which was a Kojic church, and that was a big B3, still is, big B3 world gospel music. And I don't know, but I just never, that beast scared me. So I stayed away from it. And I, you know, I look back now, it would have been great to sit down, but I'm like, wait a minute, I'm just trying to deal with these 88 keys and there's knobs and there's things to do. So I have one record that I played on a B3, but I just loved listening to other people play it, and it never really called my name, you know, and but it was great to hear people like Joey DeFrancesco and like I said, Shirley Scott and Don Patterson. Oh man, the list could go on. And also, I'll be honest, I had no desire after watching people lift and lug that instrument around. I admired them. There's no way I would have done it.
So you keep your Philly roots going, though, with your Captain Black big band. You often bring in Philadelphia musicians, and you'll go and you'll lead that band at clubs in Philly.
I live in Philadelphia, and I do most of my playing in New York. So I still like to keep that connection to Philadelphia. Although, just to put on the record, I'm originally from New Jersey. And people now, you know, are emailing me, why do you not claim New Jersey? I'm originally from Trenton, New Jersey.
Born in Jersey.
There you go.
Raised in Philly.
Raised in Philadelphia. So everybody knows it. But I liked it. You know, I like being in Philly. It's tons of younger musicians. But most of my playing is in New York. And that connection is something I love keeping alive, and with the help of a great family, it's not been a hindrance. It's actually, they encourage me to get up and down that turnpike.
Well, what can you play for us next?
Well, next we're going to play a tune actually written for a Philadelphian by the name of Dwayne Burno, and it's called A Little Dab Will Do You.
Orrin Evans. Orrin Evans. You know, one of the things that you do that I think a lot of jazz musicians should pay attention to is you're really out there working to try to build the audience for jazz, to embrace the audience and not kind of have that standoffish attitude that a lot of jazz musicians have about the audience. What have been your strategies for trying to think of making the music accessible and making yourself accessible to the audience that loves your music?
I would go with the second thing you said. It's about making myself accessible. I grew up in an artistic family. My mother was an opera singer, and along with that ran a after-school program up for the arts in Trenton, New Jersey. So she was doing so much. We were going on trips to Broadway plays all the time. And then my father was a playwright. So I grew up around the theater. You know, I grew up around performance. So not that, you know, some people have a negative thing again towards entertainment, but there's a part of me that I really understand. I'm here to entertain you. That doesn't mean I have to be talking to you 20 minutes on the microphone and telling you 10,000 stories. I just want you to feel part of the process, part of my music making.
It's been great hearing your quartet. What a terrific bunch of musicians. I'd love to see if I could insinuate myself in and play something with you guys.
Well, I think everyone knows that, you know, the blues. So we're going to do a blues if you're, you know, inclined to play with us.
Let's do it.
All right.
All right. Orrin Evans. Wow. I'd like to thank Orrin Evans and his exciting band, and Bohemian Caverns Jazz Nightclub for hosting us. And I'd like to thank you for joining us. I'm Eric Felten, and I hope you'll join us again soon for more good music on Beyond Category.